Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. If ever there was a prize for the most horrible way to learn of your significant other's affair, I would probably win it and be in its Hall of Fame. Like so many people in this sub, I suddenly found myself as a member of a club that nobody ever wants to be part of. I will never forget the sound of my ex-sister-in-law's voice as she kept saying, I'm sorry, over and over on the phone while I drove home from a week-long business trip. I was confused and had absolutely no idea what she meant. But only after I managed to calm her down somewhat did she inform me that my wife was in the hospital and that I needed to hurry home. My mind went into overdrive as I tried to get more information while not crashing the car. The only thing she told me was that it was an assault. Then she cut the call and wouldn't answer again. A bit of background. My ex and I met in our mid-20s through a mutual friend at a barbecue. At first, she seemed almost too good to be true. Not only was she incredibly beautiful, but she was also shy and introverted. It took a while for us to officially date, but once it happened, I was over the moon. When we first tried to get intimate, she suddenly started crying. I should have taken that as a bad sign. I freaked out, thinking I did something wrong, but the next day she apologized and told me she was triggered. As it turns out, 2 years before meeting me, she had been in a long-term relationship with a guy who was emotionally, physically, and mentally abusive. He would degrade her during moments of intimacy and then apologize afterward. She had a flashback, but reassured me it had nothing to do with me. So we took things slow while she was still in therapy. It was tough, but I loved her, and I believed that once we got through it, our relationship would be stronger. And for a while, it honestly appeared that way. Fast forward another year and we were engaged. Our first time being intimate also happened during that stage. I was fortunate enough to buy a house for us courtesy of an inheritance from my late uncle. Things were going great. I had seriously suggested we plant a peach tree, important for later, to signify new beginnings, and she was all for it. We were married not long after, and quite frankly, it was absolutely amazing. Of course, we had our normal ups and downs like every married couple, but I considered us lucky because she always made it a point to never go to bed upset with each other. She would always gently point out if I did anything to upset her. Sometime later, life happened. I was promoted at work. It meant more pay, but also more travel for work conferences and meetings. I noticed she had been getting down a lot more and wasn't being as intimate as before. She kept her phone closer and stopped gently addressing things that upset her. I tried to talk to her, but she assured me she was fine, just going through a phase. Having no reason to distrust her, I let it go. She would sometimes spend the night at her sister's place, saying she needed girl time. The day I got that fateful phone call was one of those days. I remember rushing into the hospital, barely breathing, asking about my wife. That's when the most understanding and patient police officer sat me down and explained what happened. He told me he was a friend of my sister-in-law and had responded to a domestic disturbance call. When he arrived, he found a couple fighting. The supposed boyfriend was on top of the woman, punching her as she screamed and tried to fight back. This didn't make any sense to me. We were married. Who was this girlfriend being attacked? He gave me a knowing look, placed a hand on my shoulder, and told me to be very calm, because the girlfriend was my wife. If it weren't for the severity of the situation, I would have laughed. But something in the way he said it made me believe him. A nurse ushered me in, and what greeted me, to this day, I can hardly find the words to describe. I just stood there for what felt like an eternity until a doctor came in to explain her injuries. A slightly fractured jaw, a completely swollen shut left eye, massive bruising on half her face, and 3 broken ribs. Then the doctor dropped another bomb. She was pregnant. I couldn't understand how this happened. Then I saw her sister. She tried to avoid me at first, but at the officer's persuasion, she finally told me what she knew. My wife's ex had contacted her 5 months ago. He was doing some kind of redemption pyramid step thing, apologizing to people he had wronged to clear his karma. They started talking more. He convinced her to meet up for coffee, to show her he had changed. Old feelings resurfaced. It developed into an emotional affair. My wife had approached her sister for advice, and her sister told her to take things slow and get it out of her system, which led to a physical affair 3 months later. Her sister even offered to cover for her once in a while. My sister-in-law was in tears. She kept apologizing, saying she didn't know about the abuse. My wife had never told anyone but me and her therapist. I was numb. When my wife woke up, I was there. She burst into tears upon seeing me. I spent the following months in zombie flight mode. She went to individual counseling, and we both went to marriage counseling at the strong urging of her family. Surprisingly, she was very forthcoming. She said she hated herself for causing me pain. She once fantasized about driving into a river after leaving his place because she couldn't stand the thought of his scent corrupting her. She said learning she was pregnant finally woke her up. That was the last time she went to see him, to end it. That's when he snapped and attacked her. She became a shell of herself. She developed a phobia of men, even needing me to hold her hand to use the bathroom at night. After the baby was born, a son, we got a paternity test. He was mine. But the more time I spent with her, the more I realized I didn't hate her. I loathed her. I couldn't see the woman I married anymore, only his leftovers. I decided to leave. I was afraid I'd do something I'd regret and become like her abusive ex. She begged me to stay. She even offered me a hall pass and said I could slap her if I wanted. That's when I knew I had to leave. She was generous in the divorce. She moved back with her parents and signed a very thoughtful co-parenting plan approved by the courts. 3 years later, I met my now fiancé by chance. I was in a bookstore with a friend, discussing Egyptian mythology, when this beautiful woman, Egyptian herself, corrected my pronunciation. I was impressed by her knowledge and her presence. We exchanged numbers. We dated. I proposed to her in front of the peach tree I had planted years ago. But before I could finish, she ran inside and came back with a ring. She had been planning to propose to me too. She said she was madly in love with me and didn't want any other woman to have me. My son, in his innocent sweetness, told his mom everything. My ex showed up that night in the rain, yelling about how I could propose in front of our tree, saying this wasn't the end of us. Now she's harassing me and my fiancé. I can't just cut her off. She's the mother of my child. But she's making things very difficult. How do I convince her to move on and not force me to get a restraining order? Edit. To the insightful women of Reddit, something that still bugs me to this day is how she made time for her ex, who had destroyed her emotionally and physically. Is it normal for an abused person to crave the attention of their abuser, even if they hate them? Edit 2. When my fiancé proposed to me, the ring had an engraving, "To my Pharaoh." Damn, I love this woman. Update. I discovered my wife's, now ex, affair the day she was admitted to the hospital. Now, years later, she can't accept my engagement. Thank you all for your support and kind words. For me, my fiancé, and even my ex. It's sad that my ex's story isn't as uncommon as I thought. But it helps to know others have healed. What happened since? My son's birthday was coming up. He wanted a camp night. He loves the outdoors, but due to the situation, we couldn't go to our usual spots. So I offered our backyard. He also wanted his mom to sleep over, to imitate a scene from a show where both parents sit on either side of the child roasting marshmallows. I couldn't deny him this, but I also couldn't have my ex sleep in the same tent as me and my son. It would be too disrespectful to my fiancé. She said she understood, but I could tell she wasn't okay. My ex took advantage, buying extravagant camping gear, making suggestive comments, saying she couldn't wait to spend the night with her 2 men. I warned her. She didn't stop until I threatened to invite her sister. My ex hates her sister now, blaming her for encouraging the affair. Thanks to a Redditor's advice, I bought a multi-room tent. Problem solved. My son had the best birthday. He ran around the yard like an explorer. That night, we roasted marshmallows. After photos and s'mores, he gave my fiancée a marshmallow and sat beside her. A moment so pure, born from such a broken past. My ex asked to talk. She apologized for the proposal incident, but not for her actions after. She said in her mind, "I'm still her husband." She hoped our son being mine meant we had a new beginning. I thanked her for her honesty, told her I was happy with my fiancé, and wished her happiness. She said she'll wait for me. I left the conversation exhausted, because nothing I said got through. We all slept in separate rooms in the tent. My son had a great birthday. I did not. That's the update so far. I'll post again if anything major happens. Not the a-hole. OP's ex's trauma doesn't entitle her to his life, his home, or his future. She blew up the marriage, and now she's trying to rewrite the ending because OP has healed and moved on. OP needs to document everything. Texts, drop-ins, rainy night confrontations. Save it all. Switch to a co-parenting app so he has a clean record, and set firm boundaries. Drop-offs curbside, no entering the house, no unscheduled visits. If she escalates, OP needs to consult an attorney about a harassment order that still preserves parenting time. And now let's hear community's opinion. That peach tree moment is symbolic, not theirs. It's yours, your resilience, your new start. She's using sentimentality as a wedge to keep you emotionally available. Gray rock her, minimal, boring, logistics-only communication. Parallel parent instead of co-parent if she can't be respectful. Separate events, clear schedules, no overlap. Your fiancé handled the proposal like a queen. Protect that relationship by making your boundaries visible and enforceable. As someone who's been through abuse therapy, yes, survivors can trauma bond and revisit the abuser seeking closure or control. That explains her behavior, but it doesn't excuse violating your boundaries. Encourage her, once neutrally, to stay in therapy and explore that trauma loop, but don't be her safety net. Any "I'll wait for you" talk is manipulative, even if she doesn't realize it. Keep communication child-focused. What time is pickup? What are the meds? Here's the school notice. Nothing else. Your son is the North Star here, and you're doing great. Backyard campout plus multi-room tent was an A+ dad move. He got his memory without you compromising your fiancé's dignity. Going forward, set rules for mixed events, separate sleeping spaces, start/end times, no alcohol, no romantic talk, no house entry. Add a clause to the parenting plan about non-harassment and third-party boundaries at kid events. If she shows up unannounced again, don't engage. Call it a boundary violation, log it, and leave with your fiancé's son as needed. Protect the peace you've built.
I, 23 male, am one of 7 kids. There's Lydia, 31 female, Josh, 28 male, Leo, 25 male, me, then Aaron, 21 female, Nadia, 18 female, and the surprise child, Lexi, 4 female. With that many siblings, it's easy to get lost in the crowd. Some of us have our positions, so to speak. Lydia's the oldest. Lexi's the baby. I have a kid. Yes, that's my descriptor. OP gave us grandchildren. Erin is the golden child. She was the last planned child, the one supposed to tie up our family. She was born premature, so I understand that my parents coddled her to an extent. But it's more than that now. Erin's getting married and recently told us that she's brought the date forward due to a cancellation. No big deal. It just means they're getting married sooner. But the new date lands on the date of Nadia's high school graduation. Erin was sympathetic, but said she's already committed to the date. They've printed the invitations. My parents normally go overboard on our high school grads, but they said that they just have to miss Nadia's. We were all sympathetic, but it wasn't intentional. Or so I thought. But Nadia later told me and Leo that she was there when Erin got the call about the cancellation and told Erin that she was graduating that day. But Erin just laughed and accepted the date anyway. This, as much as I hate to admit it, sounds like a very Erin thing to do. She booked her engagement party for the night of Nadia's 18th birthday. Luckily, she wasn't celebrating until the weekend. She announced her engagement at my oldest sister's wedding anniversary. Everything is about her. I confronted Erin about this, and she said that Nadia's high school graduation didn't matter. She wanted to get married to the love of her life sooner, and our family had been to plenty of high school graduations at this point anyway. She said something like, "We still have Lexi." But here's what gets me the most. Nadia's been looking forward to this for so long. She's watched all of us graduate and have these huge celebrations thrown by our parents. I asked Nadia what she wanted, and she said she wanted to have her day. So I told my family that me and Nadia won't be attending the wedding. Leo has also dropped out. Everyone's angry. Erin's furious, and I didn't make it better by telling her that I could watch our other siblings get married, since it's all the same in her eyes. Mom's trying to convince me to come to the wedding because graduation isn't as important. But I feel like if I don't do this, then it sets a precedent in Nadia's life that she's always going to mean less than Erin. I've had messages calling me an a-hole, an idiot, etc. They're telling me to step up and be a good brother. But that's what I'm doing. My son is supposed to be a ring bearer, but with how my family is reacting, I'm considering pulling him out of the wedding too. My dad's told Nadia he'll take her to dinner after the wedding. Nadia's currently staying with me because Mom won't stop cornering her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Erin tried to make her little sister's graduation all about her, and you are being a good big brother and standing up for Nadia. Also, I'm extra petty, but I would pull your son out of the wedding in solidarity of Nadia. By the way, I could watch our other siblings get married, since it's all the same in her eyes. Boom! Not the a-hole. Erin is just a narcissist. She could have chosen 364 other days to have her wedding. But no, she wanted to snub someone else's achievement. Let this be a lesson Erin may learn. She is not the center of the universe. Not the a-hole, and pull your son out of the wedding ASAP. They are picking on a child over her sister picking on her. You don't want your son around all that drama. Hopefully others will leave that ship before it fully sinks. I'd make sure to tell everyone you know it was on purpose. And if they wanted to be a-holes to a high schooler over an entitled adult, that's on them. Okay, I'm in this dilemma. When I met my wife 10 years ago, she had a 1-year-old. His real dad is a complete dumpster. Never wanted to have anything to do with her or her son. I love them both, and I marry her a year later. Then we have another son, B, who is healthy and amazing. For 3 years, we're all happy. We were saving for a house, both working, and taking care of our 2 boys. Then we hit a rough patch. Money is tight, with daycare and neither of us had gone to college. But we're doing well, established in our respective industries. Then she starts to slip, spending time out of the house more, going out with friends. I'm okay with this, since she didn't have a traditional post-high school life, since she was pregnant her senior year of high school. But then she goes silent, and we rarely talk. Then on Tuesday, she announces she's leaving. She grabbed some stuff and went to live with a dude she met at work, and had been seeing on the sly when I was home with the kids. Fast forward a few months, and she's back in town. Her and her new boyfriend have an apartment, and has more contact with our 2 sons. Then she gets pregnant with boyfriend's kid, C. Fast forward another few years, and they all live with her and boyfriend, and I see my 2 boys on the weekend. Fast forward until last fall. They both get arrested, and DHS removed all kids, giving me full custody of my 2 sons, and placing the youngest with her sister. If her sister doesn't take him, he could be placed in foster care. Now, I've spoken to my sons, and they both are kind of indifferent to the youngest, C. C was treated like a prince, while A and B were both constantly ragged on by ex and boyfriend. So, the question, am I the a-hole for not wanting to take in the youngest? He's not my son, and I've had very little contact with him. Not the a-hole. You take care of one son that is yours, because of how young he was when you got with his mom. If A and B don't want to live with their brother, they shouldn't have to. Now, 2 things. 1, this is their brother. They should be able to spend time with him, regardless of who becomes his guardian. The treatment they have mentioned isn't new. Even mothers doing it doesn't surprise me. But if the youngest is young enough, that behavior can be fixed. 2, can you financially care for all 3? Is the youngest out of control? After that, you really just have to do what you want, emotionally, morally. Not the a-hole. But man, it sucks that kid C may have to suffer because of his mother's poor life choices. Really hoping the sister takes the kid in so he doesn't end up in foster care. Not the a-hole. When this event happened, you were legally only obligated to take in B because you're the father of that child. It was your choice on whether to take in A and C. You chose to take in A because B and A are close, and you wanted B to be happy, as well as the fact that you and A also have a close relationship. You didn't take in C because A and B didn't have a good relationship with C, and taking C in would cause problems for the family. You did the best thing for your child, and whether or not C ends up in foster care is up to your ex's sister, not you. When I, 36 female, was younger, my parents would take my siblings and I on a trip for our 10th birthday. It was our family tradition, and they want to continue with my kids, Sadie, 9 female, and Jamie, 6 male. Sadie will be turning 10 soon, so my parents told her that they will be taking her and Jamie to Disney. They're only paying for my kids, so my husband Sam, 34 male, and I have decided to save up to join the trip and make memories together as a family. Us, our kids, and my parents. Everything was fine, but my husband's sister-in-law, Emma, 29 female, heard about the trip and wants her daughter Avery, 10 female, to also join along, and has been forcefully trying to get her way, even after I've said no countless times. Emma is a single teen mom. Dad's not in the picture, so it has been very difficult for her to be able to provide Avery with certain experiences and opportunities that my kids have been given. Since Avery just turned 10 and didn't have a party, big gift, Emma thinks Avery is entitled to a Disney trip too, because my parents, who are in no way related to her, are taking Avery's cousins. I thought this was so rude of her to even ask, because why would my parents pay for her daughter's trip when she's not their grandchild? When I told her this, she then kept insinuating that Sam and I are paying for ourselves to go. We could probably save for Avery to go too. I love my niece and feel guilty she isn't able to have such experiences, but it should not be a financial burden my husband and I have to constantly bear. We already help a lot by buying groceries, babysitting, pay for sports teams, school supplies. When I sternly told her my parents won't be paying and that my husband and I don't want to have to pay either, then she had the audacity to drop the "we're all family, it takes a village to raise a child" card on me. I have helped her so much. Sam and I have just lost it on her because she isn't even appreciative of what we've already done to help her provide necessities for her child, yet she always wants to ask for more. Not once has she suggested paying for some of Avery's plane ticket, park pass, hotel. She just wants us to bear this cost so her daughter can live a life she can't provide for. I know it sounds terrible, but I hate having to be the one who has to feel guilty and pay up so that Avery can live like our family, when Emma won't even try to pay for some of it. I told her my final decision is no, unless she wants to pay for Avery. Then I don't mind taking care of Avery on the trip, and will let her come along, which Emma said no to because she can't afford it. Now my daughter is saying Avery told her I ruined their trip, and Avery hates me. I think Emma already told Avery she would be coming on the trip before even speaking to me, and now had to tell her she can't go anymore because I won't let her. On one hand, Sam and I want to stand our ground and won't pay, but also don't want to ruin ours and our kids' relationship with our niece. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It takes a village means loving and supporting, not taking every vacation together. The best you can do with a family member who talks behind your back is take the high road, especially in your communication with the kiddo. Not the a-hole, if for no other reason than this is your parents' gift to your kids. It's kind of crummy for that to be hijacked. Emma's entitlement is another issue altogether. I mean, nothing about Disney is cheap. That she can't afford or even contribute makes the whole thing worse. Not the a-hole. If people are unappreciative of the support they get, then give them none. You know the saying, never look a gift horse in the mouth. Time for you to show them why. My partner and I recently bought a house and are beginning to host, mostly to thank those who kindly helped. My family gave us a small sum for furniture. Our friends and his sister helped with some renovations. It'll be a mix of gatherings of friends, family, and one-on-one dinners. We're not having a housewarming. We don't want gifts. So my partner's parents didn't help in any way. We understand we're not entitled to anything, but the reason is because they were adamant about not buying in 2022, and we obviously ignored their advice. For what it's worth, they're not entirely wrong, but our belief was that we couldn't time the market and we'd buy what we loved if we could afford it. I'll add that they always told him they'd help when he buys a house. The father owns a small construction company, so we hoped we'd be able to borrow extra tools he keeps, and they rely on my partner for a lot. One of many examples can be giving up his Saturday to help Dad on a job, not get paid for it, buying lunch for all the guys, and not get reimbursed. Edited to add that when he asked to borrow the father's extra tools, the father said no with a helping of, "Oh, you won't listen to me when I said not to buy a house, but now you want to borrow my tools?" We invited his sister and a few others for a get-together in January. Parents find out about our plans, included my fam. They're upset they've been left out of all the parties and have only been invited to see the house. No dinner or anything. We explained they're thank you dinners. Parents get more offended. Partner asked if we can just invite them to something soon, tag along or host a nice dinner. I said a definite no to the former, and I don't want to do the latter. Am I the a-hole for sticking to my guns about only hosting for those who helped us? You're inviting people as a thank you, and they didn't do anything to help. How do you think it's going to work? Your parents, thanks for the money for furniture. Friend A and friend B, thanks for helping remodel. In-laws, thanks for nothing. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You don't send thank you cards to people who don't come to your graduation. So why would you host a thank you dinner for people who didn't help? They're not required to help you or anything, but you're also not required to thank them for nothing. Not the a-hole. If it was specifically a thank you dinner to those who helped you, then no, they do not get an invite. There is never a good time to buy a house. A friend of mine's parents keep telling her to wait to buy when house prices came down. All her friends were buying small starter homes at the time, Victorian terraces. They then, a few years later, moved on to small semis, and her parents were still advising her to wait until house prices fell. Ourselves and her other friends moved into larger semis and detached houses, and house prices still continued to rise. She desperately wanted her own home, but all she could stretch was to one of the Victorian terraces, and she said she didn't want that, when all her friends had very different homes by then. My advice is to jump on the property ladder whenever you see the chance. I, 32 male, and my wife, 33 female, have 3 kids. Our twin sons, 10, and our girl, 8. Normally all of them are sweet, obedient, and nice. I consider myself lucky with them. But since a few months, I've noticed that my sons are doing everything according to the wishes of my daughter. She wants to play mini golf instead of going to the cinema. They say yes. She wants to play tea time with them instead of soccer. They love soccer, and they say yes. Not doing sports, but sitting in their sister's room to drink tea. They literally treat her like their princess and always putting her wishes over theirs. And they get nothing in return. My daughter is acting like an entitled brat and never asks her brothers what they want to do or play. When I talked to my wife about this, she just said how cute the twins were for adoring their sister so much, and that it is good and healthy for them being around her all the time. Her presence is civilizing them. She really said this, as if my sons were savages without their sister. She told me not to intervene in their relationship, so I let it go. Yesterday, we went Saturday shopping, and I allowed each of the kids to buy something nice for them. My daughter picked a pair of very expensive brand rain boots. I told her that she can have something like that for her birthday, and she started to cry. And what happened? Her knights showed up and said they would buy nothing so she could have the boots. My wife, of course, said, "Aw, how sweet of you." This was the moment. I exploded and said nobody is getting anything and we're going home. When we arrived, my wife called me an a-hole who is trying to turn his own children against each other. I told her that she is a hypocrite. If the roles were reversed, she would be furious, but since it's the girl who is getting her way, it is okay. We haven't really talked since. Am I the a-hole for standing up for my sons and revealing my wife's favoritism and hypocrisy? My guy, you're the a-hole for your overreaction and for not discussing this with your wife more and advocating your point of view before flipping out and punishing all 3 kids. You taught them nothing, and you made your wife, your partner, feel less than equal in this dynamic. You're not wrong in thinking that your daughter shouldn't always be told yes, and while your sons are clearly very sweet young boys, I understand that you don't have an issue with them or a power dynamic between the kids, but you don't want your daughter to grow up entitled and selfish. However, you are handling this horribly. Teach her in other ways. Let your sons dote on her and teach all 3 that they are all equal, and while it's great to indulge one another, it's good that they all reciprocate and treat each other that way, not just a one-way street. The way you're doing it is achieving nothing. You're the a-hole for the way you talk about your daughter. What your sons are doing is called including your daughter in the family. You should try it sometime, and maybe your sons won't feel the need to compensate for your failure as a father. You're the a-hole. Twins have a different relationship where they interact with a deeper connection and understanding. I have twin boys who share more, communicate better, and overall have a more mature approach to relationships. You should see their willingness to support their sister as an example of their emotional maturity. It appears you could learn a thing or two from them.